Laurence following the discussions in Brussels, and John Psaropoulos is looking at reaction in Athens. First, let's go over to you, Laurence. We saw the collapse of those talks late last night. What's the atmosphere there this morning with those talks underway once again?
Well, yeah, and those talks, the morning talks, have now ended in the last 2 or 3 minutes as well, and it doesn't sound like they got any further than they had done yesterday. And I think now that is the end of any proper attempt by the Greek government and its creditors, the European Central Bank and the International Monetary Fund, to find some common ground. They tried the whole of yesterday afternoon, through the whole of the night and into this morning. What the creditors are saying is there need to be much greater structural reforms, cuts as well, a restructuring of the Greek economy wholesale, and the Greek government are saying in response to that, we're not prepared to do that. We've offered a lot of tax rises to try to meet the limits that you want, but we want some restructuring of the debts to make it easier for us to repay. And the European Central Bank in particular apparently has said is not prepared to accept that. And what it all means is that the meeting between Tsipras and the creditors and the leader of the Eurozone group of finance ministers has now ended. And what they've said, I think, is that they're going to take Greece's proposals now to the finance ministers' meeting, which is supposed to start in about an hour, and then potentially to the heads of state meeting later on this afternoon. And they will now decide whether to accept Greece's plan, which would keep Greece in the Eurozone and presumably keep Greece from moving off to try and get some funding from places like Russia, or to decide whether to throw Greece out. That's what it's come to.
OK, tense times indeed there in Brussels. Hopefully we'll get us a more of an idea of what's going on behind those doors very shortly. Laurence, for the moment, though, we'll leave it there and cross over to John Psaropoulos in Athens. It seems, John, that the talking is done. The Greek proposal is perhaps going forward. It can't offer anything else, can it?
Well, I queried a short while ago one of the senior members of the Greek technical negotiators in Brussels. He told me that he had no knowledge, one way or the other, of an impending ultimatum on the Greek side. At that time, talks were ongoing. He was still in session with his interlocutors on the other side of the table. And that, of course, does not mean that they were necessarily ending up on some common ground, but the process was continuing. The reaction here in Greece is that people are expecting the worst. They are expecting that the process in Brussels will not produce a result, partly because this has gone on for so long over the last several weeks, and partly because they know that the Greek government, having shifted significantly during the course of this month and agreed to cut at least $1.5 billion worth of spending or raise it in new taxes this year, that is from a position of refusing to make any new spending cuts or raise any new taxes this year at the beginning of the month. Having now shifted from zero compromise on this year's budget to $1.5 billion worth of austerity measures, that has not been accepted by creditors, so people here are not hopeful. In fact, Greece's leading satirical weekly presents the $8 billion of measures that Greece has proposed this year and next put together as a series of nooses, hangman's nooses rather than zeros. And the headline on the front page is "The Shame of Europe." The Syriza party newspaper also calling it D-Day, not for Greece, but for Europe. That is consistent with the Syriza position that bad news for Greece is also bad news for the Eurozone. We shall know very shortly whether the Greeks have any last-minute proposal to make, however.
Yeah, OK, we'll be keeping very close eye on developments there in Brussels and, of course, reaction in Athens. John, thanks very much.